So this video is going to be pertaining to the Prepper versus Homesteader challenge that's going out through a lot of the people that are on the homesteading prepper genre on YouTube. And it started with Julianne over Dirtpatcheaven. She asked questions of folks, and they asked questions, and they asked questions, and you can get online to any one of these people involved with this and pick it up. I will try to put links in my description of the people that have been involved and where it is up to this point. But this one is dealing, this is I think part 2 for me, or maybe part 3. I think it's, I don't know. It'll be whatever part it is. Anyhow, the folks over at Deep South Homestead were asked questions, and they were asked questions by Doug and Stacy over at Off the Grid with Doug and Stacy. And here's the questions that they were asked. Oh no, I'm sorry. These are the questions that Deep South Homestead asked of Bigbear Homestead. Sorry. Anyhow, Danny and Wanda over Deep South Homestead asked Bigbear Homestead, as a prepper, how do you determine how much food you need? So let's deal with that question first. Well, that's actually not that hard to do. You simply calculate how much food you're eating, and then figure it from there. How much food do you consume, and then you can determine how much food you need to, as a prepper, how much food you need to have in reserve. And it's real easy to do that. You can just go back through your grocery bills and see what you've bought in the last 6 months and duplicate that. Multiply it by 2. Because that's what you need to store. If that's what you ate, that's what you obviously are going to need to eat again for the next 6 months. So it becomes fairly simple to determine how much food you need. Where it becomes complicated now is when the prepper starts thinking like a homesteader. Because now I need to think about what food I eat, how much of my livestock I consume. Not only do I need to maintain the livestock on hand, but I need to have replacements for that livestock, and I need to have the food for that livestock so that I can keep it alive long enough until I can process it for myself to eat. But that wasn't the question. No. Their second question was, as a homesteader, how much land to keep your family fed? Well, I've answered that by other videos. As a homesteader, you need 40 acres if you're going to be involved in a stuff hits the fan situation. If you're a homesteader in modern times and you want to dabble and play with some homesteading stuff and it's not going to be your livelihood, a couple acres would be all you would need. But if you are serious about this and you need to have the land, and again, doing the math real quick, it's real simple. You take all your animals that you're going to require. Okay, well, first let's start with your vegetables. Okay, your garden, half-acre market garden is usually sufficient for people. Add to that a orchard and berry patch for fruits. A couple acres there would probably be sufficient. So maybe 3 acres would take care of your vegetable and fruit needs. In there you'll have some beehives, you'll have a vegetable garden, you'll have some corn planted, potatoes planted. Those are your big staples. You're going to have an area for your fruit trees, a few different types of fruits, some berries of different types, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, some grapes would be nice. That takes a little bit of room too. But so everything there, your entire homestead, a couple acres could handle all of that. 2 to 3 acres, you could have all of that, and enough produce to really sustain a family. Now the trick comes is when you'll start looking at the farmstead and the animals required for that. Chickens, turkeys, ducks, and geese, all of those combined, 1 acre, plenty. 2 acres, better, but 1 acre can work for them with supplemental feeding of grain brought in from off farm. Or then you need the fields to grow the feed to feed them. Pigs don't require a lot of room. 100 foot by 100 foot area you could raise a few hogs on if you want to concentrate them in a particular area. Cows, depending on where you live, and you got to check with your local extension office. There's a number, it's animal units carrying capacity for your area. I know where I'm going to in Ohio, it's about 1.5 acres to 2 acres, and that's enough grazing ground, not for the hay production for winter, grazing ground for a mama cow and her calf to graze on for the year, or for the season, as it were. And then if you're really, a stuff hits the fan kind of person, you're going to need some livestock, some horses, some draft animals for working the farm and for transportation needs. So, to me, once again, I believe 40 acres is what's necessary. That'll give you enough ground to raise your animals. Now, that does not give you enough ground. I mean, that's 40 acres of pasture and field to take care of what you need to grow the grain, the oats, the barley. Do the math, do the homework, do the research. You'll find out how many acres of wheat you need to plant in order to raise enough grain to feed your animals, and you're going to want to bake some bread and plant corn, so you have corn for feed. Plant barley, so you've got barley for feed and for beer. Got to have beer. So you need a little hops garden area growing as well, if you're, a sane person. Because I think, it's nice to have a cold beer now and then after working hard all day. Okay, so that answers their questions. And then Bigbear of a Bigbear Homestead, he then asked questions of Ozark Off-Grid Family, another YouTube channel. And his questions were, how much of your food do you produce on your own? And most important skill that you've learned. So, how much of your food do you produce on your own? Historically, I have been able to produce going to the store and buying feed and bringing feed on farm from off farm. I've been able to produce probably in the neighborhood of 70% of my consumable protein. Right now, I am not anywhere 10%, if that, because I'm wrapping up this farm and getting ready to go to Ohio. Once I get to Ohio, I'll be back to 100%. I'll be able to raise 100% of my food. But right now, it's really down because I'm wrapping this farm up. I mean, I don't even have eggs right now because the chickens, my layers aren't big enough. I got 2 pigs out there growing, but my daughter had cleaned out the cabin when there was nobody here, so all of the meats and stuff that we had here from previous times, it's all gone. And I had chest freezers full of pork and fish and crab, and anyhow, it's all gone. I think she took it with her to her new place where she's living. So, but how much of your own food do you produce? You should be producing 100% of your food as a homesteader and as a prepper if you're serious about what you're doing. Right now, I am way below that. And the most important skill that you have learned. Boy, that to me is probably the single toughest question to answer. The best skill that I've learned, not to be, smart aleck or not, but I think the best skill that I've learned is that I need to learn. It's the skill of being able to, it's not that much of a skill to ferret out information nowadays. You can get online, search stuff on Google, watch a video on YouTube, and you can learn probably anything there is to know about anything known to mankind in the world today. So for me, I think, me personally, aside from that, I think my carpentry skills, being able to build shelters, being able to build a house to live in, probably is the best skill, physical hands-on skill. Shorter to that, I think communication skills. As a realtor, I have to be a bit of a wordsmith and be very careful about how I talk to and deal with people, and helping them through what is the single largest financial transaction probably of their life to date, most of the time. And so understanding and appreciating that and being able to answer all their questions is a big part of my skill set in that regard. But as far as the homestead is concerned, I think my biggest skill set is being able to to construct and to build stuff, and knowing how to do that, how to use tools that I have. So anyhow, that's going to wrap up for today's Homestead versus Prepper video. It's a real interesting process that people have been going through. And let me see if I don't miss anybody here, but it started out with Dirtpatcheaven. They asked questions of the folks over at Goforgreenliving, another great channel here on YouTube, who then in turn asked Brad and Krista over at the Big Family Homestead. Brad and Krista then asked questions of, I believe it was Doug and Stacy over at Off the Grid with Doug and Stacy, who then asked questions of Danny and Wanda at Deep South Homestead. And Danny and Wanda then asked questions of Bigbear Homestead, who is now asking questions of Ozark Off the Grid family. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes to next and who's next involved. Frankly, it was mentioned to me, why don't I get involved with part of that? And, it would be nice to get the attention and certainly get the traffic directed to my site, which would be nice. But I really enjoy doing what I'm doing, and I can do this anyway. I enjoy answering all those questions. It's interesting to be able to ask her all those questions from everybody. So, I don't know, if you think that I should be involved in the chain, let me know. Certainly let the powers to be know. But in the meantime, check out all those other channels, because between this group of people in this homesteading and prepper and family farm genre here on YouTube, boy, there's just a ton of great information to be had. So anyhow, folks, you have a nice day. Please like and subscribe, and we will have more videos for you later. Thanks. Bye.